And so it was an enormous moment and enormous sense of pride and accomplishment to have finally got back there. It's been a very, very difficult journey, a very long journey to get back to that level, having walked away from it to begin with. And I did really well. I actually did enjoy the day very, very much. And it didn't overwhelm me at all until about an hour before, and then it did.
Yeah.
And I was really struggling. Yeah, a little breakdown. My dad came in and was patting me on the back and so on. And then had another one a bit later. My wife Gemma was amazing and got me through it and just talking to me, and I was crying like a baby. I was really, really, and it wasn't anything to do with stage fright. It was, I think, just the enormity of dreaming of that moment for so long, and then it finally arrives, and you're desperately not wanting to make a mess of it, not wanting to make mistakes, wanting to fall over or just do something. A big technical breakdown with. I mean, there was a lot of sort of 40 years of just frustration pent up, and it was all going to come good, and the possibility of it going wrong was just it got a bit much for me. But it was amazing. It was something like that you wanted for that long. You would think it's impossible for it to live up to that kind of build up. And I was expecting that. I thought, there's no way this is going to be as amazing as I've dreamed it would be.
Right.
But it really was. It was absolutely stunning. Probably from a career point of view, the best night of my life. Without doubt, the crowd were amazing. The live show was stunning. It was everyone played well. The only little mistake was mine, and I got out of that one quite nicely. It was just amazing. It was everything I dreamed it would be and more.
That's really good to hear. Because I read your recent autobiography, and reading about your career struggles throughout the 80s, and I can only imagine how sort of validating the experience of returning to Wembley must have been. And
yeah. It's really, from my point of view, it's all very well. Records can do better. The album's been getting into the chart in Britain, especially, but even a little bit in Europe now. Well, that's great. In many ways, that would be a marker of getting back to where you were, and it is a marker. But for me, because I walked away from it at Wembley, it was getting back to Wembley for me became the symbol of a genuine recovery, a career recovery. And so it really did mean the world, and it became sort of larger than life in a way. When you have this sort of something that becomes very symbolic of an achievement, it becomes like the Holy Grail. It becomes probably more than it deserves to be. For some other people, going to Wembley is just another gig because they do it all the time. Yeah, and for me it wasn't. For me it was this Holy Grail moment, and you just like I said before, you just want to enjoy it. Do you know what I mean? You don't have that many sort of key moments like that in your life. That feeling of triumph and vindication. So you don't want to be all so nervous that it kind of gets ruined for you. And you don't. You want to be able just to soak it all in and enjoy everything about it. And then start to work towards doing it again. You don't want that to be the only time. No, you're back there now. Just do it again.
Right.
Maybe try and do 2 nights next time, or go even bigger.
Mm-hmm.
It's still as important as it was, and as much of an achievement as it's been for me to try to get back there. It's not the end of the line. That's not
right.
Ambition doesn't stop at Wembley. There's bigger places. You can keep going, and so I'm still ambitious. I still want to keep going, do more, do better.
Yeah, and speaking of that, you are about to embark on a second leg, as it were, of the Intruder tour here in the United States. How are you feeling about these shows coming up?
I'm more confident actually than I was. The first one was very, very, very fraught. the COVID was still very much around and very much a concern. It still is. I'm not saying it's gone away now. But with a tour as long as the one before, with 31 or 32 shows, I think it was initially in the schedule, that's an incredibly long time to try to keep people harnessed,
Yeah.
and avoid the problems. And I think we did a fantastic job. I think we were just very unlucky. I didn't see anyone being silly. Everyone was taking all the proper precautions, whether you believe in all that or not. We did, and we thought that was the right thing to do. Everybody was vaccinated. We still did meet and greets, but everybody had to be vaccinated, and
Right.
proof of that, before we let them in. Which upset some people, and I understand that, but it wasn't sprung on them on the night. It was clearly laid out up front. If you want to do it, this is what you need to do. So we weren't trying to trick anybody, sort of nick their money. And I think what happened was we did 2 shows in Detroit on the same day, 2 sets in this venue, quite a small venue, people very close, and I think that's where it happened. So it was always a risk. When you're doing shows and you can't put a barrier in, so to keep people further back, but for mutual benefit. And when you're the singer, you're at the front, you're closest to the people, you're not wearing a mask at all. Obviously, you can't sing.
Yeah.
You're breathing in huge lungfuls of air to be able to do what you want to do. So if it's there, if someone in the front's got it, you're probably going to get it.
Yeah.
So that it was just one of those things. But it was we were really worried about it. We dreaded it happening, and when it did happen, it was every bit as shit as we thought it would be, and every bit as disrupting and damaging, and it was bad experience. So doing this second leg feels great in that we were able to do all the shows that we missed, add a few more in to make it more even more exciting. Go back to some places that we particularly like San Francisco and LA, or Pomona, which is kind of LA. And I feel less worried. I feel more confident that we can get through a 10-day tour without anything happening. Again, if we're super careful and so on. I'm a little bit more at ease with this second leg, and it definitely feels like we're making up for what went wrong before.
Definitely.
Sure.
And so, will there be anything different about these shows in terms of like any new songs in the set list that might not have been played last time around?
Yeah, definitely. We were moving the set around a lot. I mean, every single night of the American tour, the US tour before, and I've done the British and European one actually, we were changing between 4 and 6 songs every night. Well, that's only a third of the set.
Yeah.
So we rehearsed a huge amount of songs. So we had this big pool of them, and then we would start to rotate them, and each night we'd... and I organised it in a certain way. Song 3, for example, would be a song from like the 1980 era.
Mm-hmm.
So I would take out Remind Me to I'll put in Wheel Glass, I'll take it out, put in Either You Do. So I was replacing it with a song from the same era with a similar sort of feel to it.
Right.
So even though the set list was changing, the actual feel of it and the flow of it was very consistent. There'd be a certain amount of old stuff, not new stuff, a bit of old stuff. Do you know what I mean? So it had the same format, but you're able to completely replace the parts, but still create that same format. But I think we could have done more than that. We certainly could have played a lot more of Intruder than we did. I think it was only doing 3 or 4 songs. There's a lot more that we could have done. And I think we could have rotated things a little bit more aggressively than we did. So we definitely learned a lot from doing that US tour, and then going into Europe and Britain, where we were beginning to shake things up a little bit more. I think we can do better when we come back. And there's nothing wrong with what we did before, but I think we can make it. I think we can make it even more variable and unpredictable, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I was at the San Francisco show, and I remember you played Pressure, and that was a song that I had been wanting to see for years, and completely took me off guard, in the best of ways. But I'm going to go out on a limb and assume that this year is its 30th anniversary. I'm assuming we can't expect to see any songs from Machine and Soul entering the set list.
Not this year, not any other.
How does that? How must that feel looking back and thinking that 30 years ago might well could have been like the death knell of your career?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I thought it was,
Yeah.
and I really did. I mean, I thought after Machine and Soul, I regretted putting it out the day it came out. Really, I should have just waited. But there's lots of other factors at play when you make these decisions. There's financial. You've got to pay your mortgage. You know, food on the table, that kind of thing. You can't always just sit back and wait for better songs to come along because you're gonna go bankrupt and you're gonna go under. There's all sorts of things going on. Confidence is I remember I went through a period of over 2 years, didn't write a single song. Actually, that's a lie. I wrote a shitload of songs. Didn't keep a single song. Erased everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once your confidence is gone, then it's like a downward spiral. As Trent would say, it's like a downward spiral. And it just gets worse. And nothing you do seems good enough. And it might actually be good enough, but you're so negative, and you're waiting for the best thing you've ever done. And of course, it's probably not. But it might actually be quite good, but you just can't see it or hear it, and so you get very very sort of aggressively anti the things that you're doing. Nothing is good enough. So rather than just trying to work on it, you erase it and start again. Raise it, and I wish I hadn't done that because I'm pretty sure that all those songs I would have written there would have been one or two, or maybe more, that were actually quite good.
Yeah.
With a different mindset, different sort of attitude when you're listening to it. But a good thing about Machine and Soul is that it made me realise how bad things have got. It made me realise that my attitude sucked completely. It made me realise a lot of things. But I did think, to get back to what you said before, I did think that my career was pretty much over then. But when I started to work on the next one, which ended up was a very, very different record, but that was thanks to my wife Gemma, and all the input and help she was giving me, and all the music that she was introducing me to that I hadn't heard before. It was very, very inspiring, which included Trent. I went back to it with a very, very different attitude. Decided to do everything myself, rather than pull myself out of it, which I've been doing before. I've been taking myself out of the albums up until then, increasingly with each record, thinking that I was the weak link musically. I don't sing very well. I don't play very well. So I saw that as being the thing that needed to be taken out. And Gemma convinced me over a long period of time. We're not talking like one conversation. This went on for months, if not a year or more. And she made me realise that the bit that I was taking out was the bit that the fans had wanted. And she said to me, she said, you might not be the best singer in the world, but you have a certain way of singing, a certain sound to your voice. And he said, you might not like it, because I don't particularly. She said, you might not like it, but other people do.
Yeah.
And that's what you have, and that's what you should be putting on the record. You just same thing about the playing, the keyboards and the guitars playing. You might not be the best guitar player, but you play it a certain way, and it gives the music a certain sound, and that's what people liked. And you've taken it out, And so I begrudgingly accepted that after a while. I went back and made Sacrifice, which was a much better record, and I really loved it, and I really enjoyed making it again. And it kind of rediscovering your love of music that you had when you was a teenager. So but that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, without Machine and Soul.
Yeah.
But when I made Sacrifice, I didn't have a record contract. It didn't look likely I'd ever get one again. I was probably done for, massive debts. I was in huge trouble financially, trying to repossess my house, and it was really horrible, really grim and unpleasant. So for me, Sacrifice was a hobby album. I didn't think it'd ever come out. I thought my career was finished, and I was seriously thinking about what I was going to do with my life. What sort of job could I get that would have the minimum amount of humiliation when people realise who I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thought, never actually came to going out and trying to get a proper job. But I was already thinking, how am I going to do this? How am I going to handle this sort of thing?
Right.
What sort of job can I do? But there aren't going to be people around you that are going to keep, talking shit about you all the time and making my life a misery. Do you know what I mean? That sort of, I had those sorts of worries.
Yeah.
Did Sacrifice, really enjoyed it. I think we put it out ourselves, actually. I think we self-released it.
Yeah.
And it turned a corner. It did better. Fans started to come back. And it really felt as if we turned a pretty significant corner and things are going in a much better direction. But most importantly, like I say, I loved it. I loved making it. I really enjoyed it. It felt like my imagination was back, the creativity was back.
Yeah.
All the things that were missing from Machine and Soul were very present, I believe, on Sacrifice. I made a complete fuck up at the mastering, that was my own fault.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to master it myself because I didn't have any money. I was so in debt, I couldn't afford to get it mastered in a proper place. I thought, I'll do it myself, can't be that difficult. And I didn't realise, but I was actually going deaf then. Mm. I've gone much worse now when I wear hearing aids. Not now, I wear hearing aids.
Yeah.
I can't mix my own albums then. I can't hear for shit, really. I hear well enough to write songs and sort of help on the production side, but I couldn't mix them. And I couldn't then, but I didn't realise. And so I happily mixed it myself.
Yeah.
The mixing wasn't that bad. It was the mastering where I really fucked up. So it's this horribly waffly thing, because I just couldn't hear what I was doing. So we're actually doing that again at the moment.
That was actually something that I wanted to ask you about. Was you and Aid announcing that you're going to do? I think you said Sacrifice, Exile, and Pure. Which I definitely do agree about. Like Sacrifice does have a specific kind of sound and mood to it that Exile and Pure don't. I mean that in a very complimentary way. Like Sacrifice is actually one of my favorite albums of yours. So yeah, how is that re-recording going, and about like how soon do you think that will us fans will be able to hear the finished product?
Well, it's gone really well actually. I mean, it's pretty much all done. I got a few more vocals to do when I get back from the tour actually mid-September, and with that the mastering is already booked in. Okay. So I really need to make sure I get those vocals done because we're up against the deadline. Mm-hmm. So I think by October or middle of October, they will all be done, mastered and ready musically. Then I'll look at the artwork, decide what to do with the artwork for them, whether to do a composite kind of thing for all three and make it a box set, or to release them individually, or whether to recreate the original artwork. I don't want to do that. I'd like to do something different for them, but I'm not sure what yet. Exactly. Yeah. And then the problem's going to be is when to release them, because we have a massive delay now with getting vinyl manufactured, and it's making a real nightmare for trying to schedule anything. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the big record labels are actually buying lots of time so that they have time available when things arrive. Right. But it's making it really difficult if you're an independent. So I might even talk to BMG and see if I can sort of buy into their scheduling somehow, which would be useful. And that might accelerate things a little bit. But at the minute, 9 months, 10 months even for final. Yeah. So it's very, very difficult to plan when you're going to release it and if there's going to be any gigs around it, because you don't really know when it's going to be ready. Mm-hmm. You could end up putting a whole series of shows in place to promote these albums that aren't ready for a month after the shows are booked. Do you know what I mean? It's pretty awkward, but they are nearly ready. And then we'll see what to do about it.
So, does that mean that there are already discussions to potentially do sort of like a retro tour for those three albums?
I wouldn't see it as a retro tour, although I suppose it is.
Throwback.
I don't know what you mean. Yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't even thought it would be seen that, because I forgot how long ago I did that. It's a long time, isn't it?
28 years for Sacrifice.
Yeah. For me, retro is everything before Sacrifice.
Right, yeah.
I always thought that no matter how long it's gone, the record still starts before Sacrifice. But it's not. Like, dude, oh dear, that makes it a bit awkward.
Oh no.
How am I going to deal with that? I'm going to talk my way out of that one. That's tricky. But yeah, we were thinking about trying to pull some shows together for them to give them a push. It's very difficult, because as soon as I've done those vocals, then I'm going to start on the new album, the follow up to Intruder, and really that's the important one.
Of course,
that's the one that really needs to matter. There's another company just talking to me now about releasing some much older back catalogue, like Berserker and Fury, and that era of albums.
That's something else that I wanted to ask. Actually, you're just answering all my questions before I'm able to ask them. This is great. Yeah, because Berserker, The Fury, Strange Charm, a lot of those albums either aren't available on the quote unquote big streaming services, or they also haven't been repressed. Like Sacrifice, for instance, that goes now online for about $250-$300 for.
Is that?
Yeah, I was lucky. I found my copy at a shop for a lot less than that. Yeah, even Machine and Soul goes for about $200 online. Yeah.
$200 of Machine and Soul.
I know. Yeah, so there's definitely like Beggar's Banquet has done up through Warriors, but I think that there is a substantial portion of your output that isn't readily available unless you're able to go to a used record store, and hopefully they have Berserker or they have Outland.
Yeah, I think that's true. And it's my own fault, but I'm just really, really bad at working on things that have already been out.
Mm-hmm.
My entire thought process from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed is about what I'm doing next.
Mm-hmm.
And I will willingly admit that I'm really, really bad at reworking things that I've done in the past. This thing with Sacrifice, Exile, and Pure. Sacrifice, I was always aware that I messed up the mastering it, and it's always bothered me. So I thought, well, let's redo it, but not just remix it and remaster it. Let's just rework it. Let Aid do his magic on that album. So we could hear what it would sound like if he'd have been around at the time. Exile and Pure, same thing really. I didn't mess them up at all, but it would be interesting for me to hear how different they are with Aid working on them.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Exile and Pure, the original versions of that, was signed over to a record company called Eagle Rock, who have them in perpetuity. So with Exile and Pure, it's a way of getting ownership back of those albums, albeit new versions.
Right.
So there's a slight sort of bit of mercenary business about that decision. But I do think all those three albums, they were like my first three more industrial albums.
Definitely.
And I would like to hear what they would sound like, with an Aid Fenton involvement in it, because I think he's done an amazing job with the more recent albums. And the idea of putting some shows together to promote them, I thought would just be really good fun.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as the other ones like Berserker and Fury and so on, the truth is that if it was left to me, nothing would ever happen.
Yeah,
it wouldn't. I'm going to be working on the next one. I'm going to do a little bit on these Pure and Exile and that records, but that's it. I mean, my thought is all about where I'm going next, but not what the next look will be. What am I going to sing about? What is bothering me at the moment? What do I want to write about? I've done 2 climate change related albums. It's not directly to do with climate change. Do I want to do that again? I do feel like moving on to something different. What is bothering me at the minute? And that's what I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking, I really should do something with Berserker
right.
or Fury. So, when a company comes along that really love those albums and are willing to put money into them and redo them and, really push them back out again and do a number of them, I kind of think, well, it's not going to happen any other way. So let's go for it.
Yeah.
You can get the right deal together for them, and I think it'd be good for fans, because these things are just sitting there, wasting away, really.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to have them out again. I think the fans would want it. It'll make the catalogue more vibrant again, which is a good thing because that always has a knock-on effect to other parts of the catalogue as well. When we saw that just now, there was a documentary that was made about me recently that went on television a week ago Saturday in Britain. And immediately the album, Intruder, Savage, and a live album that we did recently, the sales have just rocketed again.
Yeah.
And so, I think when you can create a certain amount of interest in one part of it, it definitely spills out into others. You're just generating interest,
Yeah.
really. And it doesn't stop at the item that you're pushing. It bleeds out into other things around it. And so I think to have a really good back catalogue push going on at the same time that I've got Pure, Exile, and whatever it is, but Pure, there's Sacrifice doing their thing, and the new albums coming, I'm doing all that as well. I think that's a really, really healthy position. But like I say, it wouldn't happen if it was just left.
Right. I do have to make one request. If you do end up doing shows for Sacrifice, Exile, and Pure, please at least do a couple here in the States.
Oh yeah, I would too. I would. It would. Yeah, well, I think if I was to do some shows there with that, I would definitely. I would do. If you're in Britain, I wouldn't do a major tour with it.
Of course.
I'm talking 30, 40, 50, 60 shows like Intruder.
Yeah.
But I do think that you could do maybe sort of half a dozen key cities. It would depend a little bit on cost and all, and so on. In Europe as well, but definitely Britain, Europe, and the States, and probably Canada actually, maybe Toronto and Vancouver. We dropped into that somewhere. But I'd like to. I would like to. And if it works out, then the timing could be very, very useful in that we do that when there's that lull as I'm making a new record.
Yeah.
Especially if there is this vinyl delay. It could be a couple of years before the new one comes out.
Yeah.
And all the touring that comes with it. Hopefully we're very, very post-pandemic by then, and you can tour with the album rather than the year after it.
Right.
It's a bit of that's weird. No, I don't think that's the right way to do it, really.
No, because you have to keep interest. You have to keep that momentum going.
Yeah, it's impossible to keep momentum when you tour a year after an album comes out. It's just faded away. Then you're trying to drag people back into being enthusiastic again.
Yeah.
And it was good. It went well. The tour was great, and I loved it. But it just felt wrong.
Yeah, it's not the same.
You felt like you was trying to revive an old relationship that faded away.
Yeah. I know that, through watching interviews and reading your book, you're not a huge fan of nostalgia. But if you will humor me for one question, with last year being 10 years since his passing, I was wondering if you would be able to talk a little bit about what it was like to work with Mick Karn on the Dance album.
Well, as a musician, I thought it was amazing. Unbelievably inventive, fascinating to work with in the studio because you had absolutely no idea where it was going to go, what he was going to come up with next. Nothing about the way he played was predictable at all, and it was brilliantly different. Even with really, really great bass players, they tend to operate, or any musician actually, they tend to operate within certain areas. It's going to be great, and the sort of great it's going to be because that's what they do. With him, you didn't have that. You thought, that's going to be great, but I've got absolutely no idea what he's going to do. And that made it really exciting and really different, and it was a real pleasure to be with him. I don't think I ever really got to know him that well personally. Hung out a lot, and you thought you did, but then something would happen, and you thought, oh, actually, I don't think I know you at all. But and so I lost touch with him a little bit. Brilliant, brilliant sculpture as well. If you ever saw any of the things that he did, but
No.
just as madly genius with that as well.
Wow.
You know, seriously creative and off the wall kind of all around artist. But I definitely, there were a few little things happened, and I just thought, no, really. And so the whole thing just got drifted apart a little bit, and I lost touch with him completely. And then I heard that he was sick. Very, very shortly before he died, actually. So I never got a chance to sort of reconnect with him at all. So as a person, I don't feel I knew him that well, and couldn't really sort of say much about his nature and his personality,
Right.
and so I suspect that he was as different with his personality than he was with everything else.
Yeah.
And it was unpredictable. I certainly got a hint of the unpredictable about it. But from a musical and creative point of view, just phenomenal.
Definitely.
Absolutely phenomenal. Just a genuine rather off the wall genius when it comes to playing.
And one last question. You mentioned that you are working on a new album. I'm wondering what you can say about that so far, how many songs you have done for it, if there is a similar direction to, Savage and Intruder and Splinter, or if you're going in a different direction this time.
Well, the truth is, I haven't started on it at all.
Okay.
I'm thinking about it a lot.
Gotcha.
I've not written a single song. I've written some tunes. Actually, that's not entirely true. I've written some melodies. I've got some different ideas around. I do have quite a few big grooves that I built up, sample-based loop things, as a backbone, if you like, of where the song's going to go. So I'm not entirely lacking some movement on it, but I certainly don't have any finished songs yet. I don't have any finished lyrics yet for it, and I genuinely don't have any idea or any clear idea about what it's going to be about or where it's going. I would be very, very surprised if it's if it's a huge step away from what I've been doing. But from Sacrifice Violet to Intruder, I'm very happy in that area of music.
Yeah.
That kind of sort of heavy electronic,
right.
The big choruses and the huge sort of dynamic range that they have. I like it, and I enjoy writing it, and I feel like I've found an area that I can sort of dwell in.
Yeah.
And you can still progress, and you can still move forward, you can still find new things.
Well, yeah, and like each album, Jagged doesn't sound like Pure. Splinter doesn't sound like Dead Sun Rising. Like there are differences between these albums.
Yes. But I think if you were to put it in, if you were to give it to somebody that was logging music, and you said you've got to give 4 words that sum up these albums, they'd probably come up with the same 4 words for all the albums, and they'd be in the same category. But I think I agree. Well, I'd like to agree.
I would hope so.
That they all, if you were to take a song from Pure and put it on Intruder, it would stick out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Because every album has its own sound and its own vibe, and it sounds as if it belongs together, and they don't interconnect. They do live, actually, but with live it's a very different environment, and you can mix and match far more easily live than it's impossible to do on record most of the time. And I hope with the next one that it's that same variation. I'll find another part of that kind of genre, if you like, where I can come up with sounds and new ideas and new music, and it will sound like it's another album in its own right.
Right.
It sounds different to Intruder and different to Savage. I expect that to happen because that's simply that's the sort of music I love to make.
Yeah.
I went through, in the first, 12, 15 years, I was with each album. I was trying to find different things, different sorts of music, so, different instrumentation, and I meandered around all over the place. And it wasn't really till Sacrifice and Exile and Pure, actually, those three that are really sort of consolidated exactly the sort of music that I've tried all different things, and this is the what I love. I love being in the studio. I like these sorts of sounds. I like these sorts of melodies. I love doing this live. It's so amazing to be standing on the stage with the power of some of these songs just ripping out. It's just great fun, and I'm happy there. Strangely enough, not much. Around about the same moment I met my wife, I'm still very, very happy there. I've come across music that I'm really, really happy with. So I'm faithful to my music, if that makes any sense.
No, it makes complete sense.
So, but I don't want it to become. I don't want it to become. Oh, it's just another Gary Numan album. It's the same old thing. So there is possible variation within the genre. And I think in this particular genre, with electronic music especially, the ability to broaden that genre and to keep finding new ways of working within it and making different sounding records is very apparent, and I want to keep trying to do that.
Well, I'm excited to hear it whenever it is finished and released, and I'm sure I'll see you however many times on whatever tour you end up doing for that.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Of course, and I'll see you at Bimbo's in San Francisco in just a couple weeks.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Actually, really looking forward to it.
Yeah,
we played there once before, and it was great, and the people there are lovely. I really. It's a great team of people, so I'm looking forward to coming back.
Yeah, I just saw Howard Jones and Midge Ure there a couple of weeks ago.
I saw a video clip of that,
actually. Yeah. It was, it was great. I felt like Midge should have been the headliner, to be honest. To be honest. I'm a much bigger Ultravox fan than Howard Jones, so it could be my own personal bias.
Yeah. Does he do a lot of Ultravox songs then, Richard?
Oh my gosh, it was almost exclusively Ultravox songs. Right. He did Fade to Grey, and he did maybe one or two solo songs and a cover of The Man Who Sold the World, but the whole rest of his set was maybe 8 or 9 Ultravox songs.
Was it his era or John Foxx's era?
It was his era, and I know that you are a bigger John Foxx fan.
I am. Yeah. I've got nothing against Midge at all, and I certainly appreciate that they did better with him than with John Foxx. But personally, I think the aura around John Foxx was very, very different and very much more interesting for me.
Yeah, it was definitely, it had more of an edge to it, I think.
Yeah.
But
he's a very intelligent and interesting man. He's very analytical, John Foxx. He's able to look at music in ways that I just go straight out of my head.
For sure.
And he sees connections and journeys through music, which is fantastic to listen to. I never thought of it that way. I never saw that. I'm just sort of getting my head down writing songs. And he's making all these connections to why you wrote that song and why it developed from that one again. Oh, fuck me, I didn't know that, and I raised it.
Yeah, for sure.
So he's great. I love John. He's such a cool man to talk to. Never met Midge, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Never met him once. So maybe he's the same, but I tend to think probably not.
Just live with the idea that you have in your head of him.
I'd like to meet him though, because he's a key figure in electronic music in some ways. So it'd be nice to have a chat with him one day.
For sure. Well, I want to just say thank you again for taking the time to talk and for making the music that you've made and keeping it going.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. And I'll see you next time.
All right, man.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.